Going on, guys? It's your boy Fabulations, and welcome to today's YouTube video. I've decided to do a new, different form of content. Not saying my other content's not going away, because I will be pushing more content out that I'm usually, gaming videos. I did a food review video. You guys liked it. So I am in college, and I joined a class called Art of Film, which the name of it speaks for itself. We watch movies and then we discuss about it, and we have to record ourselves to upload a video for credit. So I sat to myself, I'm a big movie guy. I like going to the movies. I enjoy it. I love it. I watch movies and I analyze them by myself. I watch a lot of content creators who make their living of analyzing movies and then get invited to events. It's very motivational for me. So I'm gonna start this segment on my channel called Fabula Film Fest. And today, episode 1, we're gonna be talking about WALL-E. So WALL-E came out around June 2008. I remember seeing the movie in 2010 when I was 10 years old. Now I'm 25. So watching the movie again for almost 15 years later is insane. The things I recognize, the things I picked up now versus when I was little, it's a little mind-blowing, a little scary. So this time when I watched it, I have 2 younger siblings. I have a 5-year-old little sister and a 10-year-old little brother. We all sat down, watched WALL-E. It was some good family bonding time. My mom had a very heartwarming moment where, something like this was awesome and very to incorporate the family. So, after the movie, I asked my younger siblings. My little sister first said that we got to keep the earth clean so it doesn't get dirty. She's 5, but she got part of it correct. And my little brother, he's 10, so he's at the age of, why do we do things? And he finally understood, oh, this is why we recycle. This is why we make sure we take care of our trash properly. So, because if we don't do it, then this is what happens to our earth. And I said, yes, that's correct. Now, me, I would have said that if I was 10 years old, which I probably did. But now having more knowledge and paying attention to what goes on in the real world, I see WALL-E in a different perspective now. So let me break it down to you. WALL-E's a film about a robot whose sole purpose is to clean the earth. Now, during the times of cleaning the earth, he is an artificial intelligent robot. The movie is silent for the first 45 minutes, and you pay attention of what's going on. You start asking yourself, like, what happened? How did it get here? Like, why? Like, why is he the only, I wouldn't say living thing, but, he is a robot and he's collecting things. And when he's cleaning out garbage and he's decomposing them in a little cube, he's collecting items and putting them in his own little basket. We see in the movie he goes to his little, little apartment place, little cube. He sits there, he recharges, he has a routine, he watches TV, he meets a friend, which is crazy because the only living thing on this planet, and I grow up learning this from my elders, that if something was to happen to this planet, the only living thing that would be left is cockroaches. And he makes friend with a cockroach. And it's crazy how Disney predicts that it's a true stereotype. Like, it's crazy. So as we progress through the film, WALL-E, does his daily routine. In the time of discovery of cleaning up, he finds a plant. He decides to put a plant in a boot, and he decides to put it on a special place. He doesn't know what it is, but he knows it's something special that's not the norm. Later, more into the film, we see a big, giant spaceship come down to Earth, and it drops off a newer design robot, sleeker, faster, sharper, more durable in multiple environments. This robot is called Eve. When WALL-E first saw her, he was like a deer in headlights. No matter what he looked like, my boy was shooting his shot. He wanted Eve. And Eve, who came from a society that's up in space, she had to learn how to adjust to the environment that she was put into. So there was moments in the scene where, she has a laser gun and she was shooting things because she didn't know what it was. And Wally was there, showing her things like, hey, this is how you do this. This is how things are. This is how things are down here. And, they started building a connection where, they both realize they're both robots and they have jobs and duties. But you see that artificial intelligence become human between them and they create a bond. And to be honest, Wally's madly in love with Eve, so he's showing her everything that he has until we get to the point where Wally brings Eve back to his little nest that he collects of, items. Fun fact, by the way, Disney always shows in their Pixar films what's the next movie, so we see it actually right about this scene. So yeah, so he brings her back and she sees the plant. Now, Eve's purpose is to recover that plant and take it back to, I guess, the mothership, as you want to call it. So once Eve gets that plant, Eve is still. She goes back to her sleek, dim form, doesn't say anything to Wally, doesn't say anything to her. You see a little segment where Wally is still by her side. Even though she can't do anything, she can't talk back, he is still by her side, still taking care of her. It is very sweet and, very considerate how a robot can show this type of human affection. Eventually, Eve gets picked up by the spaceship. Wally follows her. Now, this is where the part of the film we get a little bit of our answers. We notice that society has fully dumped Earth and moved to a outer space living environment ecosystem. They are introduced by a company called Big and Tall, and the CEO is stating that, hey, we're gonna dump Earth and we're just gonna move out of space and we're gonna find a new planet to live on. Keep that in mind. So we get there, everything's futuristic. You have robots dedicated for cleaning, robots dedicated for transportation, robots dedicated for activities to play sports for humans. Any activity, anything a robot does, they're designed for. They even got robots that are police that captures rogue robots that, needs attention and help. So we see that Eve gets taken up to the captain. Wally follows her. Wally notices he's immediately out of place and, there's a little discomfort. So he tries to fit in. When he almost gets caught, he moves around. He eventually follows Eve. And when Eve gets there to the captain, we finally get to introduce to the captain of the ship. It turns out the ship is being controlled by artificial intelligence and is always on autopilot. We finally get to meet the captain. And the autopilot ship is saying, hey, we found life. We found a plant. This is life, which is called photosynthesis. And the pilot doesn't have any idea. The captain, he has no idea what that is. So they end up taking Eve. They open Eve up, and they don't see the plant. So now the captain's like, wait, where's the plant? He opens up the manual. He just blows it off, and he's like, all right, book, read to me. And the book's not reading. It takes the AI ship to have him turn, and he's so amazed that he's like, okay, I have to read this manually. He looks at the video, and he's astonished about what the instructions are, learns about photosynthesis, learns about Earth, and then instead of, him being like, it's whatever, he actually challenges himself to learn about Earth. He's literally asking the computer, defining farming, define dancing, define laughing, define photosynthesis. And we see that little part of where the AI is trying to discourage him, but he's still learning to educate himself. Remember that part. So Eve ends up being called defective, right? So she gets shipped down to where the defective robots get for fixing. Now, remind you, Wally is in the room the whole time. He accidentally trips out and he sees the captain. The captain's like, whoa, Wally, what you doing? He's like, get him cleaned up, because he's a little dirty. And actually, before we get there, I apologize. There is a little moment I want to highlight earlier in the film When Wally gets to the ship and he's looking for Eve, he accidentally bumps into humans. Now, these humans, I'm not gonna lie, they're a little bit large, overweight, and they fly on floating chairs. The first thing you see is people, they're talking to each other, but they're not talking to each other. They're talking through a voice chat, like a little image hologram box, and the person's sitting right next to them. So as Wally's navigating, mind you, he's on wheels and he's rolling. He doesn't float like how everybody else is. So he bumps into someone, knocks that person off the ship, and he knocks the person off their chair and off the ship. And then he bumps to another person. And then Wally keeps moving on for a day. But the film takes that time to highlight where they both realize that, talking to the person face to face is that human connection. Not everything has to be done over online. And don't get me wrong, things, long distance relationships, I understand, but that moment of society shows like how separated they are from the human element, which that was like one of the most beautiful moments that I think, like one of the beautiful moments to highlight, which, showed how far society has gotten in the Wally world, in the Wally, universe. So fast forward, Eve gets captured, defective. Wally follows her, and we finally noticed that the AI robots are working against humanity. They seem to adjust that humans cannot make decisions for themselves, and that they decide that they're going to make the decisions for them. We see this basically because one of the little mini robot cops holds up the plant, and Eve is surprised, and she's like, why would they do this? Because remind you, Eve's job, she is still a robot. A little personality, but she wants to get the job done. Now, at this point, Eve is willing to break the rules, so it's not more of what she was programmed to do, but she was taught by Wally what's the right thing to do. So she ends up going rogue. Her and Wally ends up going rogue throughout the ship. Wally and Eve actually ends up getting stuck, getting shipped out in one of the emergency escape hatches. Lucky enough, Wally, on his time of Earth, he noticed things on the escape hatch, which was a fire extinguisher. Now, this is the first time Wally's ever in space. Eve is accustomed to it, so she is moving with fierce speed. Wally, the knowledge that he's gotten from Earth, he's provided in that moment of the scene where he uses a fire extinguisher to move him closer to Eve. And, we see this beautiful silhouette between them, flying through space, like how birds fly and communicate. And it's the amazing scene that captures that, what it hits me home is like, no matter where you are, where you're different, sharing those cultures and, embody them to the next person, can make an impact and, give them that exposure. And overall, that's one of the reasons what Wally was when it was created, exposure. That's one of the reasons. Now, fast forward, they end up getting back on the ship. We notice that the two people that Wally bumped into, they start spending quality time together. They're playing in the pool versus they would have robots play in the pool for them, and they're enjoying life how it is. And you see that little snippet. We get to the captain's room. This guy is studying all night, learning about Earth, excited, super excited, this and that. And he's telling the AI robot, like, hey, we need to go to Earth. We need to save Earth. We can do this. And we see a video recording that the robot's like, no, we cannot go to Earth. It's toxic. It's, and then he doesn't believe him. So he shows them a recording of the CEO of Big and Tall. Now, here's my funny thing also about a topic, which we see today in society, that a lot of CEOs makes decisions based off status, what the people want. And it's crazy. You think about it. Not saying every fancy CEO of every large company, but it shows the embodiment of that CEOs don't care. They just in there to make money. And at the end of the day, they're okay. And if they could screw over society, not saying they wouldn't want to, but it shows, when people buy into that corruption and, when things come easy, they take advantage. And we see that because we see a video when we first get on the ship that the CEOs welcome and everybody like, hey, we're gonna be here for 5 years. It's gonna be awesome. Thank you for buying into the dream. Filling their pockets up and realizing that they're hurting society. Then we see another clip where the CEO's like, oh, don't go to Earth. We're just gonna stay here more. It was a bad decision. It's toxic. Now here's the thing. That is very realistic. That whole portion of CEOs calling back and this and that, which shows that money and greed and power can destroy living things. We're not just talking about Earth, like people changing their lives, changing their diets, and we see that we get that capture moment right there. Now the only thing is, we could also see that when the CEO is giving a speech, he looks like he's being intimidated, held gunpoint. So what the captain does, thank God, he gets his knowledge. He's looking at the pictures of the past captains. And you know what he notices? The AI cruise ship moving closer, closer, closer to the captains and having that influence. So you know what he does? He says, no, we're going to Earth and we're going to see what's going on. And this is the part where the AIs think that they need to run humanity themselves. So the AI robot locks the captain underneath and takes over the ship. Meanwhile, Wally and Eve is trying to get to do the plant. They find out that the captain is locked because he hacks into the mainframe with wires because he learned about all the stuff he was studying overnight, and he gives a message to Wally Eve saying there's another way that we could inject this plant where it'll kick a system override to activate the Earth protocol to get him back to Earth. So they create a plan, and the captain is trying to figure out what's going on. How can I help Wally and Eve? So, he gets smart. This guy is studying all night. It's crazy. He ends up loading a hologram up of the item, that the precious thing, and he ends up tricking the AI machine. And they go back and forth. Now, remind you, the humans on the ship are very obese, and they're used to being on floating chairs. So when the captain rolled over on his back, the AI machine thought, I was like, he can't get up. He needs a machine. And we see the captain stand up, and you see that moment of society where as the captain is standing up and people are watching in the ship because it's being broadcast, it's like the moment of society stepping up together. Him stepping up as society stepping up together, doing the right thing. And, that was a big moment. He fights over the robot, fights over the crews, and turns off AI autopilot, and he's manly to it. Meanwhile, Wally and Eve is trying to, get the plant, submitted into place, and does it, which is, they do successfully. But since the machine was, AI driven, there's a little hatch. Wally is willing to make sure that hatch stays open as it's crushing him. And Eve rushes, puts the plant in the machine, and the machine kicks the Earth override. We also get a little snippet of seeing all the Earth, of all the all Earth, the humans. The ship did turn over during the tussle between the captain and the AI robot, and they're all wobbling and stuff, and it's a little funny, but they all managed to work together, which is what society needs in the Wall-E world. So they get to Earth. It's not toxic. The humans sit there and they observe. Meanwhile, Eve takes Wall-E to his little shelter. You see the little cockroach friend, and Eve remembers what Wall-E taught her and where his stuff is at, and she's putting himself back together. And when Wall-E gets put back together, he's no longer the Wall-E we know. He's just a lifeless robot. He goes in, takes his stuff that he, his knickknacks that he, his trophies that gave Wall-E a purpose, puts him in the cube, and Eve is like, no, Wall-E, Wall-E, Wall-E. And then you see that little electricity spark hit Wall-E, and next thing you know, Wall-E remembers Eve, and because Eve was his world. So overall, this film has taught us a lot. taught us about, doing the right thing, taking care of our earth, not letting machines take over, as crazy as it sounds. You know, we're entering in a digital age where artificial intelligence is starting to become a thing, and people are learning how to work easier and not smarter. That's where things start drifting. We see massive, CEOs talking about Earth is already done. We're going to go to Mars. We're going to live on Mars. And it's crazy to think that, after watching this movie at the age of 25 and I'm being in this moment in life, that it's Disney was right. They're kind of right. Did they predict it? And normally that's a Simpsons job. Crazy now to think about it. Mickey Mouse owns Fox now. Talk about CEO companies owning things. It's crazy. But overall, this is my movie review on WALL-E. It's taught us a lot of important life lessons. And, now to see it at the age of 25 versus when I saw it at 10 and getting that experience to spend the time with my, younger siblings and see how they viewed the movie. My only concern is Disney right? Are we moving to that direction? And I'm really concerned about the future of my younger siblings, and I also have a 2-year-old daughter. So, are we going to still do the right things? Now, don't get me wrong, there's programs that are dedicated to keep the earth clean, and we see all that. But how long will it take? We also see self-driven cars and robots coming out to do house chores. It's starting to look more realistic, and to think about about how to connect society to this and watching a Pixar film on WALL-E is very insane. But I want you guys to let me know in the comments what you guys think about this movie review, how I did, and really spark up a conversation. Like, is Disney right? And if so, how can we prove them wrong? So thank you for tuning into today's video. Make sure you guys drop a like, comment, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your boy is out of here.